Hello everyone. This is the 34th part of the story, Avatar in DC Universe. Chapter 100, Success. Aden's Point of View. I pocketed the note and turned my attention to the small black box sitting on the table. The box was cube-like, similar to an engagement ring box, and fit inside my palm nicely. I opened it up and revealed what was inside. Within it, the box had a raised platform with the shank of a ring holding something at the top. A thin film that looked like the pad of my thumb. Studying the setup, it was very obvious what I needed to do. I pressed my thumb on the thin film and felt a small current run up my finger. Identified, Aden Strong. New user registered. A synthetic voice sounded from the multiversal data pod. I raised my hand and watched in marvel as the MDP covered my whole thumb in a water-like motion, extending to below the first joint and changing into a silver ring. I whistled in appreciation at the cool shift. Recalling I was on a time limit, I got up and stretched. My movements were impeded by the cuffs holding my hands together. Luckily, that was the only thing I had to worry about, seeing as Wonder Woman had untied me from the lasso the second we had made it to the watchtower. I tested the strength of the cuffs and felt that I could break them apart by tugging. They weren't meant to hold me down for long term, just to inconvenience me until the League brought me down in a more secure way. Then I found out that I had underestimated the Magitech device. I flexed my arms, giving it about 20% of my full strength. The cuffs surprisingly held. I frowned a little as I increased the strength. In response, the magical symbols constructed along the length of the cuffs flashed and a blue electric charge flashed, electrocuting me. I winced a little. That shit actually stung. I re-evaluated the cuffs and decided against breaking them. Zatara was a magical genius of that, there wasn't a doubt. Plus logomancy, his brand of magic was very powerful. Maybe there was a way I could use that. The stirrings to a follow-up plan to this begun. I would think more on that later. Right now I had to deal with the cuffs first. I turned my attention to the MDP. This thing could supposedly open anything, right? I placed my thumb on the metallic side of the cuffs and tried hard to think on what I wanted. Nothing happened. Well, that does away with the notion I can control the MDP with my thoughts. MDP, unlock the cuffs. I tried using my voice to activate the function. Nothing happened, making me frown. What would I do if I was the one handing the device over to my past self? I wondered. A second later, an annoyed look crossed my face and I sighed. I knew exactly what I would do. MDP, unlock the cuffs, please. Upon uttering the last word, tendrils extended out of the silver ring, running up my finger like flowing water, and made contact with the cuffs. Then they got to working. The MDP was nano-machine tech with the software to interface with any technology to acquire data, or in this case control any device to do the user's bid. It was suspiciously very similar to Rocket's version of nanites. There were some implications there. It wouldn't take a genius to figure out she was probably the creator. And with the way future me had worded it. The cuffs suddenly unlocked, cutting through my thoughts. I held them up by my right hand curiously, as the MDP tendrils retracted back into the silver ring. Just like I'd said, I couldn't leave this behind. A boom tube appeared on the surface of the table and I dropped the cuffs in. Then with an inaudible pop the portal disappeared and I rose up. Time to get to work. I hummed the tune of Sweet Dreams as I walked towards the door of the interrogation room. I held out my hand without stopping and tightened it into a fist. The metallic entrance crumpled like a piece of paper through sheer air force. I had been making steady progress in my air manipulation despite firebending being the main focus. In fact, once I was done here, it was time for a month-long grind. I was long overdue to getting those firebending sub-skills and add to my repertoire of badassery. I stepped out of the interrogation room and looked around. You couldn't tell it, but everything was frozen. Even the watchtower floating about in space was held in place by a fundamental aspect of reality. Shit. This had to have garnered attention from some really powerful guys, must have been why I only had 5 minutes. For now that I spent one trying to unlock the cuffs. My steps made no noise as I walked the long hallway, headed to the central computer terminal of the watchtower. Despite the fact that time was stopped, I tested and found out that my other abilities could still be used. Fire still spread, showing my abilities were backed more with mystical bullshit than science. Anything under my direct control really was exempt from the temporal shenanigans. Not complaining. I arrived at the control room and accessed the door. Instantly rows and rows of servers appeared in my vision. Now you might be wondering what I was actually doing in the watchtower. Here's the answer. I hadn't been exaggerating when I'd said that the League's main base of operations was a marvel of technology. The fact that it had been floating in space for close to 4 years without the public's knowledge was just crazy. I had an even better version of cloaking and disguise with my elemental dimension, so that wasn't the main highlight. The thing I was after was the monitoring and surveillance aspect of the watchtower. Those blueprints would propel my own realm to the next level, if I could incorporate them. Initially, I'd thought of getting and holding on to them until I got someone to outfit them into my dimension. The reality, however, was that only I had the admin privileges and I wouldn't be exactly comfortable with someone else making changes into my personal dimension. That just screamed betrayal. With their surveillance tech, I could better be prepared for things like alien incursions and respond accordingly. This was still my home. Or well, a version if it anyway. And the best part of it all, I could find out the locations of some interesting figures and characters that had what I needed or keep tabs on them. The watchtower also had live satellite footage on some places of interest like the Infinity Island. Knowledge was a powerful tool, and that knowledge was the first step into turning my elemental dimension into something scary. I extended my finger towards the chassis of the first server, then ordered the MDP to copy the watchtower's blueprints, any information with a level 3 and above only clearance protocol and locations of interest to the League. Tendrils glowed into the servers, and despite the fact that time was frozen, everything the tendrils touched lit up and activated. It took 2 minutes for my new favorite device to do its work, and when it was done, I left the room surprised at how easy it had been. And with that, I was done with my business at the watchtower. I passed through the rejuvenation chamber where Superboy was sleeping, being bombarded with solar energy for faster recovery through wide panels on the ceiling. Miss Martian was watching him through a mirror with a worried look on her face. These two. Then my feet dragged me to the meeting hall where I found the League in a meeting to discuss, you guessed it, me. One point of note was the random streaks of yellow lightning that escaped Barry's body randomly. It was as if he was trying to counteract the temporal restriction. And normally he would, but something was actively stopping him. Wow, future me must be one heck of a powerhouse. Before leaving, I pressed Green Arrow's fist onto his smug face. When time resumed, he would punch himself. Done with my petty act for the day, I bounced. The next room over housed the teen team playing table tennis, and Robin was losing to Artemis. Guess, dexterity applies to everything else despite being a skill she gained due to her bow and arrow practice. Aqualad was combing through files from the holographic display about Connor's condition and the most recent mission. Wally, on the other hand, was eating hot puffs. This guy is almost always chowing down on something. The drawbacks to his version of super speed. I'll make sure that when I get some sweet speed for myself, I won't fuck it up like he did. I stared at them before I started feeling like a creep and sat down on a chair near the door to the bathroom to wait as the time ran out. 1 minute later, and yes. Eat that, you sunglasses wearing freak. Artemis shouted just as Robin missed the ball by a few inches. Damn it. So not turbed. I chuckled a little, grabbing their attention. It happened almost simultaneously. The alarms started blaring throughout the room, and I'm guessing the watchtower. Then the team also scrambled into a formation ready to attack me. I held up a hand and they were all restrained by air. I am not here to fight you guys. Honestly, I think we're all past that, and besides we all know it's a waste of time. I will always beat you. Oh yeah, let us go and we'll see about that. Wally shouted with a mouth full of Cheetos. Dude, don't talk with your mouth full, it's gross. I looked at him in distaste. What do you want, Aden? Aqualad cut in. I got up from the seat and walked towards him. I'm not going to start a monologue like a second-rate movie villain about how I beat you blah blah blah. No. I'm not about that, I'm here to make something very clear. I looked at their faces to judge their expressions. Surprisingly, they were all listening attentively. It was shocking to see Wally shut his mouth from just Aqualad's look that I had to ask. Wow, Calder, you really got the team to toe the line. I'm surprised that Wally isn't running his mouth like he usually does. What are you planning? Artemis spoke up. You followed us into the watchtower willingly. Her face went ashen. What did you do? Robin shouted, the implications being made clear. Before I could answer, I felt something cut through the air with massive speed. Sorry, let's continue this talk somewhere else. The familiar light of the boom tube appeared below us. Unfortunately, the flash broke the door apart before I could pull the team all the way through, so I abandoned that move and jumped into another boom tube behind me. The speedster's priority was on the team, hence I successfully got away. The last thing I saw was the terrified faces of my former team. Chapter 101, Mission Rewards. General Point of View. Computer, lock down the watchtower. Wonder Woman said while bursting into the room along with Superman, Hawkman, Green Lantern and Martian Manhunter. Is everybody unharmed? Superman asked in concern. The question was directed to the teens who still looked surprised at how unexpected things had turned out. They are fine. I got here before anything could happen. The Flash answered. Damn it. Aqualad said, slamming his arms through the table tennis. The wood splintered off into numerous shards as the table was turned into two pieces. He got away. Again. Aqualad fumed. Green Lantern's ring glowed as he scanned the room. Energy signature of boom tube activity. He informed the others. Superman's eyes pierced through the room, combing through it with his supervision only to come up empty. There doesn't seem to be anything else. Wonder Woman nodded. Manhunter will make his way towards Miss Martian and Superboy, while the rest of us will split up and try to find any whereabouts of Aden. That or whatever he wanted to access the watchtower for. He played us for fools. Not again. She finished relaying the orders in a hard tone and left the room. Calder, you need to calm down. Artemis told him, placing a hand on his shoulder. He shrugged it off and stormed out, following behind Wonder Woman and the rest of the League in anger. This is not like him. Wally muttered, looking worriedly at Aqualad's back. We have worse things to worry about. I just accessed the surveillance footage from the interrogation room. Robin said, his fingers dancing on the holographic display projected by his wrist computer. You mean hacked? The Flash remarked offhandedly. Boy Wonder, Kid Flash and Artemis almost jumped up in shock. Uncle Barry. I thought you left with the League? Kid Flash asked. The fastest man in the world sighed, staring at his slightly vibrating hands. Something is wrong with my speed. I can't seem to control it. Streaks of lightning randomly flashed around his body. It didn't seem like it, but before I burst into the room, I could feel something suppress my speed momentarily. I couldn't go into Flash time. Wally gasped at the Flash's words. He understood what a big deal Flash time was. So Flash telling him that left him shocked. Wally focused on deep within himself and sighed in relief when he felt the familiar erratic current of energy that powered his super speed. Sorry guys, not to take away from that, but we got bigger fish to fry. Look at this. Boy Wonder cut in by enlarging the screen. Artemis' eyes widened from where she was looking over his shoulder. Two separate video frames begun playing. On one side, there was a clip showing the team playing table tennis and on the other, the footage showed Green Lantern Stewart leaving the interrogation room. The Flash frowned. John was telling us he couldn't remember how he got there. As a matter of fact, I can't remember why we even let him walk Aden to the interrogation room alone. Unless it was all part of Aden's plan. Artemis surmised. I thought it was strange the way he allowed us to capture him so easily. The Aden I know would have stubbornly fought tooth and nail. Made us work for it. She then went silent as the rest of the video played. Aden raised his head and stared at the camera, a small mischievous smile appearing on his face. 3 things happened next at the same time. First, he disappeared from the room. Second, the door to the interrogation room turned to scrap metal, and lastly, Aden appeared on the other footage showing the team, relaxed and missing the handcuffs that had previously been on his hands. Silence dominated the room. This is bad. Kid Flash finally spoke up. Yeah. That's not an ability we want to mess with. It also makes sense why the Flash was affected. His speed would invalidate its effects. Aden knew that, so he must have come up with something else to make sure you wouldn't intervene in what he was planning. Robin agreed, tightening his fingers into fists. Am I missing something? Artemis wondered. She had no clue what was going on, just that everyone suddenly looked spooked. The Flash straightened up. Aden can stop time. He dropped a bombshell. The League needs to hear this. You 3 will make your way to the rest of your teammates while we try and ran a check through the Watchtower's systems to find any anomalies. Understood? The speedster gave the order and left without waiting for an answer. Robin swiped the clips away and started keying in something else into the holographic keypad. I'm calling Batman. No one else knows the Watchtower like he does. Despite spending almost 10 hours combing through the system and running diagnostic checks every few minutes, nothing turned up. There were no traces left of Aden's actions during the time he had free reign of the Watchtower, and that scared them more than they let on. Aden's point of view. I appeared in Sanctuary and sighed as the light of the boom tube faded away. Damn it, of course he's the fastest man alive. His reaction time alone is enough to let him beat 1,000 of me without breaking sweat. The Flash will forever be the most hacks character I know. I still had one last stop to make. After arriving on Sanctuary, the MDP had begun to resonate with something a few thousand miles away from the island, so I knew which step I needed to take next. I weighed my options. I could complete that final step, then take a shower and rest, or vice versa, take a shower first, rest, and then complete the final step to upgrading my realm. I went for the second option. I didn't know if I would be booted out of the elemental dimension as it underwent changes, so the only time I would get the chance to bite on some sweet Grango was now. My decision made, I stripped out of my sweetie costume and sighed in relief as I soaked my tired muscles into the hot spring of one of my islands. My tense muscles loosened as my eyelids felt heavy. A boom tube appeared at my back and I sank through it, finding myself inside my bathroom back on Earth. I toweled myself off and then left for the bed. Seeing the comfy apparatus of fine rest almost brought tears into my eyes. I sank into the sheets and it was lights out for me. A few hours later, looking at the clock showed 8 of them had passed. I woke up to blinking alerts in my vision. Guess the system was sick and tired of being ignored for so long. I yawned and carried out my morning duties, though looking at the time, it was past 2. Oh, so not that far from the morning. After brushing my teeth and what have you, I settled down on the bed and started going through the notifications one by one. Chain quest initiated. Destroy Galeel's known associates February 5th. First mission: famine and drought. A trail of endless hunger. The demon Nemeth is causing destruction in Africa, a cute little country called Kenya which is roughly the size of Texas. The big bad devil doesn't like that a certain someone is disparaging his name and running his reputation even more to the ground than it already is. So he has dispatched you, Aden Strong, demon hunter, to send this foodie back to hell where he belongs. Objectives: 1. Kill Nemeth or exorcise him. 2. Do so before he triggers his special skill and devours the shit out of you. 3. Do so before he crosses the boundary into Sudan, successfully triggering canon events. Time limit: 24 hours. Mission difficulty, hard. Mission status, complete. All objectives cleared. Rewards 50 training points. 30 training points for objectives. Cleared. Urgent mission. The demon Mammon wants to use the access node of the green and the souls of over 100 humans to infect the world with a virus designed to turn the earth into a hellish wasteland and the humans and creatures into demons subservient to him and him alone. Mission objectives. Stop him at all costs. Save Swamp Thing / become the new champion of the green. Mission time limit, 5 minutes. Mission difficulty, hell. Mission status complete. 1. Objectives cleared. 2. Hidden objective nulled by completion of the second objective. Rewards, 100 training points. 50 training points for objectives cleared. Urgent mission. Mammon has taken over Superboy and now wants to wreck you. Defeat Super Mammon and serve him his ass. Luckily, you used your brains and cheated, you smart boy. Mission time limit, 50 hours. Mission difficulty, hard. Mission status, complete. Rewards, 50 training points. Congratulations. You have successfully completed a hell-ranked difficulty mission with minimal injuries. Maybe we should reevaluate the danger factor of these missions, huh, Rambo? No? Spoilsport. After tallying the results, a new perk has been rewarded for your efforts, smiley face. Spark of Enlightenment. Once for every element, you can choose to enter a trance of true enlightenment for 1 full week and master a sub-skill of your choosing to master level without any backlash or side effects. The sub-skill can be anything of your choosing as long as it's aligned with the corresponding element. Whoa. A wide smile lit up my face for 2 reasons. 1 was the new perk that I had just gotten, and 2 were the training points. With this and my progress coupled with the dedication to grind my ass off, I would be seeing a nice increment in my power level before the next mission rolled around. To put things into perspective, Spark of Enlightenment gave me 1 week in a trance to master 1 sub-skill completely. Based on the fact that I could control time in the elemental dimension, I could shorten that time to less than 3 days without destabilizing the wild realm. Then I could use the next 2 days to buy a strong training partner from the system that would allow me to go all out without holding back. That would ensure I was familiar with the new mastered sub-skill before I carried out the next mission. Win fucking win. Christmas came early this year. I said to no one while staring at the beautiful display box. Training points, 285. Chapter 102, Realm Upgrade Part 1. General point of view. 3 individuals stood before a bed. The individuals consisted of a bald-headed man dressed in a form-fitting tuxedo, an elderly woman with green eyes and white hair, and lastly a young girl of about 9. Olympia Savage, the daughter of Vandal Savage, placed her hands on the young girl's shoulders. Cassandra Savage, also a daughter of Savage, flinched at the contact. To allow comfort from a loved one is not weakness, Cassandra. It is a form of strength. The elderly woman chided a little. In response to her words, Cassandra sank into her half-sister's embrace and relaxed, hiding the river of tears flowing down her cheeks. Olympia stared at the little girl and smiled. Let it all out, for when the grieving is over, we have work to do. Cassandra took shuddering breaths, trying to get rid of the pain inside her chest. She'd been taken away from her mom at 4 years old, and now, 5 years later, her father was being taken away from her. Olympia rubbed circles around the young child's back while hiding her own pain well. With expert emotional control, farmed from being Vandal Savage's daughter. So although her face seemed impassive, a turmoil of emotional storm was brewing inside her. Tell me something, Luther, who is responsible for this? Father refused to say a thing before he went into the coma. Olympia asked the other person in the room. Lex's eyes ran over the feeble body of his colleague, and dare he say it, friend, and frowned. I am not liable to tell you anything your father didn't, Olympia. He started. Lex held up his hand to stop the elder woman from cutting in. But, what I can inform you is that everything is being taken care of. Project Rebirth is slated for to start when a friend of ours finishes taking care of something," Lex said. Olympia nodded, seeing as she couldn't get any more information out of the business magnate and expert supervillain. She just had to trust that her father had the ability to overcome this, just as he had overcame everything that had ever been thrown at him. "Hey Cassandra." She lightly shook the little girl. Cassandra wiped her eyes and stared up at Olympia. "Did I tell you about his fight with the bear?" And so she begun the story of the ages. The story of how he started off. A normal man but a god, the savior of humanity at the end of the encounter. Lex on the other hand listened in skeptically. Olympia had unwavering trust in Vandal's recovery. Looking down at the stick figure missing patches of hair with a respirator on his face, Lex didn't think Vandal would pull through. Vandal had told Lex the promise Lucifer had made. That the next time they met up, would be the demise of Savage. The unmaking of all he was. Lex shuddered, the devil was fucking scary. Lex would rather go up against a murderous Superman who would tear him apart with his bare hands or split him into two with his heat beams than this. Vandal Savage was losing everything. His strength, his powers, his skills and his faculties. And that wouldn't do because Luthor needed Savage alive. Many plans would fall through if Savage died. But just in case Project Rebirth failed, Lex would need to have a backup plan. A backup plan strong enough to deal with even Lucifer. Penthouse, Club Lux. Lucifer chuckled. His 6-foot frame shook with mirth. "Oh, this is truly entertaining. A plan to deal with me. Let us see what this world can actually offer." His eyes glowed red before the whole atmosphere of the room was broken by a bunch of popcorns being thrown at him. "Oi, you're doing it again," Maze said after pausing the screen, where The Godfather Part 2 was playing. This was supposed to be a chill evening. Maze admonished. Lucifer sighed and rolled his eyes. "You've changed, love. Where's the mayhem-loving, bloodthirsty violent femme fatale I know, love and hate sometimes?" In response, Maze have him the middle finger. "Please, I'm still the same old ruthless bitch, you're the one who's changed. The devil I know would never bother to spy on what his enemies are up to. I remember you telling me it's bad form to get the spoilers to a main event that might prove even a little entertaining." She huffed. Lucifer crossed his legs and leaned back into the couch, swirling the glass of liquor on his hand slowly. "Change does not apply to beings like I, Maze. You know that. To explain my recent shift in behavior, I find myself a little invested in seeing how my pet project takes on these challenges. Will he fail or succeed? Who knows, but the war that is coming is enough to get me shivering in excitement." Aden's point of view. 285 points was a lot. Enough to really get me started on mastering firebending and moving on to the next element. But before I could start the grind, the final thing on my list was upgrading the elemental dimension to the next level. Which was why the next boom tube I used emptied out in a nondescript island part of a chain of islands covered with mist all day long. This was a subpar security measure to stop any spying onto what I was hiding on the island. Alien technology. A big deal in DC. An example of big deal alien tech was the emotional spectrum rings, reach scarabs, apocalyptian tech, Kulon tech and a whole lot more. So whatever this minor thing was, it couldn't be anything simple. And future me knew more about it than I did, based on the fact that the MDP was highly resonant with the machine, minor #0234. I stepped onto the unnaturally hard surface that made up the ground of the island, smoothly. My steps were cautious and eyes focused on the strange situation unfolding before my eyes. The whole island, filled with greenery, fruit-bearing fruits, chipping birds and animals scurrying about, had changed. For starters, the ground was now even and flat. I crouched and ran my fingers along it. My eyebrows scrunched up in a frown, the ground was pulsing with warmth. Strange. My gaze turned to study what was in front of me. The answers I needed were right ahead. Right ahead in the form of a huge 50-meter tower made with obsidian material, with the foundation sprouting blackened roots that speared through the ground of the island all around 20 meters within its vicinity. A green shield of energy extended 10 more meters away from the last of the roots. I could get the approximate measurements due to my connection with the realm. The tower was the only thing standing on this island. I could see the next islands over, clearly from across the vast distance. I had no idea what the miner was doing. Diving into my connection with the elemental dimension, I only got the sense that whatever was happening was beneficial to the realm. But it was taking too slow. The elemental dimension felt almost eager to complete the next step. Stepping closer, the resonance grew even bigger and the pulsing I could feel emanating through the ground and up the soles of my boots increased as well. I stopped a meter away from the shield energy. Now that I was this close, I could feel it humming, ready to push back against any intrusion. Nothing could really hurt me in this dimension. So I clenched my ass cheeks and placed a hand. I felt an overpowering mental probe explode out of the MDP and blast through my telepathic walls like wet tissue paper. My surroundings changed as I swallowed a cry at the sudden pain inside my mind. I was crouched in the floor when I heard him. "Sorry. I tried to make it easier on you, but you were so weak back then, it's crazy." That voice. It was more mature and deep. But unmistakable. Can you really forget your own voice? I stood up shakily to my feet, trying to find him. Looking around, my new surroundings were eerily similar to Sanctuary. Yet it was nothing other than a mental caricature of the real thing. I couldn't feel the connection I had with the realm from wherever I was. Which was trippy and scary at the same time because that connection was always ever present. I tried looking around some more to locate the source of the voice with no luck. "Hello, is anyone there?" I shouted to no avail. Future me seemed hellbent on playing mind games with me. A few seconds later. "This is a mental recording. Now that you are sufficiently calm, listen up." I attentively focused on his next words. "This world is not as simple as you think it is. It will break you, make you only to break you again. The only thing constant is your power. Your power will see you through loss, breakups, betrayals, and at the end of it all, you will ask yourself, standing on the ashes and bones of both friends and enemies, was it all worth it?" I did. I threw my hands up in defeat. "Oh, come on, I've heard enough cryptic statements to last me a lifetime. What I need is some spoilers. How to break the system some more, how to get hacks." I joked, but inside I was shook. Although I said cryptic statements, nothing about the statements was cryptic. In other words, I was in for an eventful future. The voice spoke up again, ignoring my childish tantrums. "The MDP's main objective is to sync with the Skoniad miner #0234 mineral extraction pod. The miner's inner routines will be enhanced to create stronger variants of worker drones, which the Skoniads use to extract valuable minerals from different worlds in the cosmos for research purposes. When the Reach sought out to use their technology for nefarious means, all production of miner tech was shut down. #0234 must have been cut off from the main system. With the influence from the elemental dimension, the process of creating worker drones for the upkeep of the dimension is well underway with an estimated 1 year till completion. With the help from the MDP, that process can be cut down to 3 months. Whoa. Mind blown. This marks the end of part 34 of the story, Avatar in DC Universe. Thank you for listening. Please like the video and hit the subscribe button to listen more. Hit the bell icon to get notified of all the new content uploaded to the channel ASAP.